Hello, humans. Let me show you what I've been talking about. So, whether you believe in this or not, this is a model of a chakra model. It's kind of an energy model that the Vedics have had for quite a long time, the Indians, the Hindus. And they've been able to make certain correlations to the various chakra point within the body, starting from the base all the way up to the crown. Since we're spiritual beings having a physical experience, you might consider some of this energetic, non-physical stuff as a little bit more plausible to absolutely real than you might have considered up until this point. Now, I will make the link or a link to this model or this image so that you can look at it yourself. But what I want to focus on here, as I've explained, lower three chakras, solar plexus, sacral, and base. And with it, they have a corresponding organ, obviously, and a function. And they've attributed certain things to the function of these chakras. My theory here is that we're all born in this base level animal man that so largely consists of the lower three chakras, the proverbial animal man, the proverbial dick-driven animals. And there's legitimate reasons for phrasing it and putting it that way when you look at us. And that's from a 40,000 foot view, looking at how humans have been doing it and considering we're intelligent beings capable of logic and reason, morality and ethics and first principles and higher standards, achieving more, growing and evolving in ways from our born base level animal man. Now, to a degree, sure, we're all going to learn things. That doesn't include these upper four chakras in this context. It's that base level programming, it's that foundational stuff that we're given, as incorrect as so much of it is for so many people. There is this model excuse me, that I've been talking about when humans crack this barrier of consciousness here from the lower three into the upper four. I first want to show you the lower three, and you can make correlations to the world that you see, whether you think it's a hell realm, a louch farm, it's a combination of both, just a terrible world. Well, however you've got it modeled, if you see the hellscape it's becoming, and I'm using that term loosely, well, you can start making these correlations to this model I'm showing you, or been trying to explain to you about the lower three chakras, animal man, and what you get from them so largely. Within this model, I would suggest to you, contains everybody in the cluster B spectrum, contains a lot of unawakened and unconscious people who are on any spectrum. The quote-unquote normal people, possibly, or just everybody else. I think this becomes a conscious journey. And sometimes you get woken up in life due to pain and suffering and some thing that snaps you into a higher level of awareness. And for some it doesn't. But this being the journey of transcending through this barrier, I probably should have depicted this with a barrier that is a little bit more distinct. But when I start, I'm going to zoom in here. And when I start to show you what's contained within, it'll start to make an awful lot more sense. So let me, why is this not showing me any controls? Oh, that's fine. Full screen. So let me zoom in a little bit. 300. Now let's look at what they have. And we'll go to the bottom. And we've seen that this is base, sacral, and solar plexus, the lower three chakras. So we've got will to live, life force, survival, fertility, procreation. So fertility, procreation, sexual, or sexual issue, well, sexuality here. So we've got these first two chakras making major contributions to this proverbial dick-driven animals. The need to spread the seed in a similar manner to the animals, rather than doing it from a higher consciousness level perspective, which I've tried to explain to people. This model opens up for your mind when you gotten into the upper four chakras, and you can see that that's the most appropriate way for man and woman to bond, is like against like in that respect. But anyway, that's a different conversation for a different time that covers different perspectives of human existence. But when you get down to it, it's probably one of the healthiest ways humans could exist, with the least amount of the types of problems that we deal with, if we just had the knowledge and saw what it gets us, even if it was just explained to us. I would suppose most people would be like, yeah, I'd like to have some of that, please, because that is in stark contrast to the world that we've been living in and the way we've been doing it. But there's reasons for why we've been doing it this way, and I'll just say it's the devil's children to an ignorant population. But so the second chakra, sexuality, problems may manifest there. You know, the animal man, there's where you get your rapey shit, men raping in war, or incest, or who the fuck knows, because you can see that stuff in the animal kingdom. Well, yeah. Group of monkeys goes and destroys another group of monkeys and takes all the women for themselves. Think about it. And then this top of the three chakras, the solar plexus, what are we getting here? Power, domination, strength. Might makes right. I'm strong. In this context of the big brute. Sure, big dudes have plenty of intelligence as well, but in this context of, we don't want to be ruled by he who is strongest yet has the lowest intellect in the midst of. But then again, in that model, those with the highest intellect would probably overcome the biggest and deal with that way. So I guess intellect will prevail, even if it's evil and diabolical and willing to do shit that intellect in good people would never. All right? Think about that for a second. Look at the things that even the Vedics consider the manifested human behavioral experiential manifestations based off of the consciousness level, is what I'm suggesting, that humans exist in under this model. And look at where we are. Look at the history. Look at what we've always gotten. Look at what we seem to keep creating, up to and including. We've populated ourselves the entirety of the cluster B and neurodivergent spectrum. Consider the millions of people and how they got there and what that did to their lives, and how it's done a lot of things to some of our other lives. So this is this cycle that we've gotten into that is devolutionary. Quite literally, when we're doing these things to put our own children who become adults on these spectrums of human psychology or existence, cognition, we're degrading ourselves. And clearly it's a quote unquote devil's children that are doing it to us. Everybody that has awareness should understand who these people are. It's become self-evident in the last 5 years for those who have the eyes to see. And as I've said, if you don't have the foundation of knowledge, and if you have not put in the work being a human being to come to know these things, you will not have the eyes to see this, because you will not have the knowledge. And the sad thing is they work so hard to build people into belief systems that they will then hang on to with a white knuckle death grip. They will refuse the information in many cases. This is just how humans are wired until they become conscious and critically thinking and thinking for themselves and on their own quest for truth. These people will deny the truth that others have found, that they have not, that the other ones have not found yet. It is what it is. They're at where they're at. You can't force feed anybody any of this stuff. You kind of got to want it, and you have to be driven from within to achieve it, to consume the information, to put in the time. And when it comes down to it, I've said it, been saying it for years. You get about bong time, beer time, chase and skirt time, or any other NASCAR time, baseball, football time, that would otherwise waste your time and not give you the opportunity to learn, grow, or develop yourself as a human being, developing thyself, thy capabilities, with a strong foundation of knowledge and information. Most importantly, about yourself. Because if you don't do this and get a foundation for yourself, He who rules this reality, meaning the cabal that runs the world, the pyramid of power, all the minions they have working for them, and the way they know to pull the strings of the lower three chakras model human. When you're in that place of the more animal man, and look at the systems upon this earth, they're designed to control that, number one, influence that, number two, and stimulate the sexual stuff, the anger stuff, the rage stuff, the power, the domination, the control. Might makes right. I got to get mine. He who dies with the most toys wins. This is a pretty base level human experience that's causing a lot of pain and suffering that's completely unnecessary if humans just understood these things, because you have intelligence built within you and the capacity to, well, you have the capacity to see the truth. However, has it been stripped from you in lieu of a belief system that was forced into your mind when you were young? This is, and they understand. Ignatius Loyola, the Jesuit priest, give me a child till 7 years old, and I'll give you a man. This is where the Jew says it. He tells you that we understand how malleable and programmable and like sponge-like the human mind is as a child. So no matter what I put in there, and that's why we're specific with what we put in there, and even if it's traumas, abuses, ideologies, wrong, false information that will keep that human ignorant and confined to that rigid box that most people form of beliefs, based off of this first 7 years so largely. And then you consider the first page of Edward Bernays' book, Propaganda. And what they tell you there, what they're clearly telling you their intentions are, how they operate, what they intend to do to you, how they're doing it to you. The fact that you'll never know it, or they suspect you'll largely never know it. They can move the herd, and influence the minds of the masses, because the masses can't think for themselves. That's kind of how it works. Now, when you transcend the animal man, so to speak, or you're working towards that and you're growing, developing, and an evolving being, the animal urges can be quite challenging to conquer, and some may never. However, they can still reach higher levels of consciousness and still have, but this is the places where you're weakened and you have to hone yourself. This is the place where the devil, quote unquote, knows, and it'll place things all in your fucking life to allow you to continue to remain weak, or well, it gets deep. But when you start looking at the upper four chakras, it starts with, I've said before, heart-based intelligence and even heart-based consciousness. And when you start getting higher into the crown, you're talking higher mind. You're getting, oration. There's so many things that you could overlay here for what you're getting in a human that pursues towards these ends, to expand their consciousness into these higher realms of being. And then when you look at what the Vedics, I'm pretty sure this is Vedic logic relevant to this. The center of emotion, love for self, love for others, peace, sympathy, forgiveness, trust, development, compassion. Relationship issues, upset in this area can reduce this, that, and the other. But look at this. This is where a human begins. Higher things. You know what I'm saying? Higher level being. The look, peace, sympathy, forgiveness. These are all attributes of virtuous type things. This is where the human begins to cultivate themselves into a higher level being. Self-expression, communication. Now, some people have strings attached to certain elements of this as they are developing and becoming more. And sometimes they're still down. There's various ways humans can develop out of this, and you can see a mixed bag. It's kind of crazy. You may or may not understand what I'm saying. I may not have said that quite clear enough, but look at this. Clairvoyance, telepathy, seat of the will within the human. What is that? Third eye chakra. This is what opens when you, psychedelic journeys. Crown can open up as well in psychedelic journeys. But inner vision and understanding, inspiration, spiritual awakening, clairvoyance. What do you think the human who's living in energies, pursuits, consciousness levels that has them tuning into these things, tapping into these things, exploring these things. Center of emotions, love for self and others. Oh, gee, there's a concept. Peace, sympathy, forgiveness, trust. I mean, look at this. Look at the caliber of human you are now seeing when the human becomes conscious. Spiritual awareness, extended consciousness, wisdom, intuition, connection to higher self. I think that's the higher mind, or the higher self is you in the higher mind with heart-based intelligence and all that kind of working and flowing through you, plus wisdom and maturation and all that other type of stuff probably helps, but may not necessarily be the thing. Connection to higher self, the inner guidance, and all embracing love. I haven't gotten there yet, I haven't gotten there. But apparently people say that that's part of it. It'll come at some point. It's all got to turn the fuck on. Spiritual center, which helps us to love and appreciate beautiful objects and art. I suppose even a psychopath can have certain aspects of that where they appreciate something beautiful for some really bizarre reason, or something so hideous they consider it beautiful because, well, just look at it. There's not another thing as hideous as it. There's just weird things that these types of cluster B minds can cognize relevant to beauty and shit. But anyway, again, I digress. So when I say transcending the animal man, when I say lower three chakras, dick-driven animal, it's not to be condescending. It's not to be insulting. On some levels, maybe it is. Because when you're here, humans, when you're in this lower three chakras, dick-driven animal, this is how they can control you. They know how to influence primal, carnal, sexual, emotional, and all this other stuff. This is where you're more triggerable. You'll beat somebody up or kill somebody because your ego was bruised, because somebody hurt your fucking feelings, and all kinds of shit. This is where dudes are duking it out because their egos are bruised. My dick's at bigger contests, and the whole fucking 9 yards. Come on, mature adults should understand these types of manifestations and being able to see what they say, what's said. And it's pretty evident when you start to correlate this. You see this and you're like, no shit, that makes fucking sense. Oops, hold on. I don't know how the hell I did that. Got to see how to go back. Yeah, there. Hold on. Fucking Microsoft and their built-in bullshit. It's never good. And I lost my train of thought. Oh, I was just going to zoom in on, like, when you start looking at power, domination, strength, fear, gangs, might makes right, this is all lower base level, man. That should be self-evident for anybody that's above a 70 IQ. Seriously, anybody that's above a 70 IQ should be able to see this. And if you have a 70 IQ, all you got to do is start to educate yourself, learn more, build knowledge that broadens awareness. And with that, you start to see more, your IQ, and you start to understand more. And with it, your IQ might increase. There's things you can fucking do. You're built the way you're built. What are you going to do with what you're built with? You first have to understand this and recognize the journey. And then you're going to realize that you've got, through your birth chart, your own obstacles all along the way. So understanding this model gives you a better framework to better understand what I've been saying. And for those that have criticisms of it, you still have yet to learn enough to recognize what this means. You'll get there or you won't. You can't say you haven't been told. Whether you accept it or not, your ego gets in the way, doesn't get in the way, or you're capable of humbling yourself and learning from somebody that's giving you something that's so valuable. You should just but anyway, again, I digress. I can do that sometimes. So I guess that's it. I guess that pretty much explains it at a surface level. All you got to do is look at it. It's so much of what I say, and I'm not saying it to be condescending. I'm saying it because it's the fact. It's not rocket science, humans. If I'm a 10th grade dropout and I can figure this out with 20 years of self-autodidactic education and consciousness work and shamanic work and healing work and shadow work and all this other stuff that has caused all this shit to turn the fuck on in me, well, you got to determine whether you're not. Because here's the thing: you wake up to consciousness, you wake up to spirituality. They're gonna fucking notify. They're gonna notice you. and your life is going to change. It's going to be brutal. This is why most people probably stay the herd consciousness, because that's where it's all get up, go to work, pay bills, pay taxes, get up, go to work, pay bills, pay taxes, get up, go to work, pay bills, pay taxes, raise your kids, get up, go to work, pay bills, pay taxes, get up, go to work. And few people, some do, few people can raise their head up from that mode of work or mode of life to expand into these higher things. And that's part of what the beast system is designed to do. That's what the hamster wheel is for. That's what it's called the hamster wheel for. That's why they put it there, because they want everybody on it, running on it. And they've made the world so that you actually have to literally survive, to live. You have to pay to live on the planet you were born on, because they're going to make the animals pay. They're going to make the animals pay. I mean, think about it. They can corral people like animals. They can Pied Piper them like sheep. Think about it. Look at all the things they say to us about, there are the references out there about cattle, about a herd mentality, sheep. I've told you, be not sheep nor goat, because wouldn't it be clear that the fate of both of those winds up on the shepherd's table? The ones who will not wind up on the shepherd's table, stand up, walk on 2 feet, think for their goddamn self, and don't need to be led like a fucking animal. I'm sorry. Morality should be your guiding principle. And that's, if the foundation of that needs to be explained to people, well, create no harm, loss, or damage for your brother or your sister in this world. And if you do, make it right. And that's your human brother and your human sister. And if you do, make it right. Everybody just live by that one simple fucking rule. Do you understand how different the world would fucking be? And fuck the 10 commandments. Be not the hedonist, but enjoy the pleasures of thy flesh with intelligence in thy decisions. That kind of stuff. Like, it's not hard. All you got to think, all you got to do is think from, well, these higher levels, and it all becomes clear. So if you're still stuck down here, well, imagine what you can get to once you get up into these realms. That's what it's for. And the beast system doesn't want you to know this. They want to keep you stuck down in the lower 3 chakras. Easy to control, easy to influence, easy to manipulate, easy to stimulate, easy to influence. Really? I mean, come on, people. I guess that's it. Do with it what you will.